Hey guys, welcome back to the Climb Along podcast. My name is John.
My name is Ira.
And today we're going to talk about surviving long distance in dating and in marriage. So this episode is great and maybe helpful to some people who are across from different countries, or maybe you've met and then just a certain circumstance has gotten you to be apart. Like for example, us, we're a military family, and that could happen a lot. I mean, even if you're a military family, or maybe you found someone in a trip and you've found them to be the love of your life.
Yeah, and if you haven't wished our love story, it'll be linked somewhere here.
Somewhere in the middle of our faces.
Yes, and so our story is that we started not even dating, we started getting to know each other long distance.
Mm-hmm.
We have not met until I think 2 months after we started talking.
4
months.
It was 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're
January,
right.
February, March, April.
Yeah,
yes.
That's true. So we had quite a bit of experience both in getting to know each other long distance, and then we went into dating long distance, and recently this year we also experienced long distance in marriage. So yeah, we'll get into all of that.
Do not recommend.
But yeah, that's our background. Again, we're not professionals, but I feel like it's something that we went through and something that we feel like we can just share maybe some thoughts on to, I don't know, be helpful.
Yes. So, first things first, what were some things that helped us get through long distance dating? Not even marriage, but dating.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like the most obvious one is definitely a lot of communication, a lot of calls. And when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking of how it's really important to prioritize that time, because sometimes you can feel like, there'll be days when I would be so busy, or I have some events going on, family, I don't know, life. And I would come back at the end of the day and I'm like, I don't really feel like calling. Like I feel like calling, like I love this person, I want to talk to you, but I'm tired, I'm falling asleep, and I feel like I have my heart full at that point, but those would usually be the times where you need to call the most.
Yes.
And it would be, of course, reversible for most of us. So I feel like having a lot of communication for sure, just a lot of calls, because again, that's what you can do. You can do video calls, phone calls, texting. Not really that many options, but yeah. What do you think about that?
I think when we were first in the friendship zone, when we were trying to friendship stage, friend zone. But in the friendship stage, we utilized a lot of Telegram's feature to do circle video messages, because at the time that was what we were comfortable with, until we took it to another level where we did FaceTime. But as soon as we went into the dating phase, we were on FaceTime, on Telegram almost every single day.
Yeah.
And that was really great. That was really nice. But nothing beat, which is what was the next one. One of the things that we used to help us get through dating is spending time and money to fly over to you.
Yeah.
In the Air Force, now it's not due to new regulations and just new things coming down from higher leadership. We used to have a lot of 4-day weekends, just because here in the USAFE MAGCOM, which I took that to our advantage. But basically, I would currently at that time she was in Greece, and I would fly multiple times to Greece, Athens.
Yeah. And that was also, just for context, that was like hour-and-a-half flight, right? 2 hours?
It's an hour-and-a-half flight if you take Aegean. Yeah, straight.
Yeah, but
no layovers.
Yeah, but that of course would differ if you're like over the Atlantic or something like that.
For sure.
that would make sense that you wouldn't be able to, even if you put a lot of money, like flying for a weekend would not work. But I feel like you can adapt this to your situation. I just feel like sometimes I would hear couples who have really long breaks between seeing each other, which is, again, I know that it's a season and, you know, we went through those seasons too. But I feel like just as a general rule, it's helpful to have it in your mind that, like, okay, let's set out a plan and try to see each other at least every month. Because I feel like by the point when you get past 1 month, it's kind of like you can start feeling like, oh, you know, I'm already like living my life without this person a little bit. And it's not like it's going to affect it that much if, you know, of course, in the, let's say, next year you're planning to be together, finally, you know, finish the long distance. But I feel like still it's just helpful to make sure that you don't forget how it is being near each other, just getting to know each other more, because there's only so much you can do while talking, but there's a lot that you can see and learn from each other when you're in person. You know, see how the people navigate with their families, with their friend groups, and all of that, which is really important. Like, you don't want to, usually that's the one thing that limits, that the long distance limits, is your communication outside of just the two of you. Because I mean, you can make together calls. I don't know if we really ever did. I don't think so, where we just invited someone to our call, or like another couple. We didn't. Yes, I guess sometimes it just can be even scheduling issues or so, with different people's, I don't know, life situations and schedules. But it's definitely limited us to being like just with ourselves. But of course, you want your relationship to be seen by other people, especially in a Christian relationship, you want to have your relationship be held accountable by close friends or mentors. So I feel like long distance,
especially during the dating stage.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, that also brings us to our next point, where building community together was one of the most important things that we needed to do during the long distance phase, because it is so hard while we're apart to build community. But when we are together, be cognizant that since it's hard building community separately, when you are together, make sure you're spending time with community as well. Because by the time your long distance ends, your community is there to help you guys, just bring you back in.
Yeah, and I guess especially if you're able to only see each other for a few days out of a few weeks, there is that temptation to just be, not in a bad way temptation, but just, you know, a tendency to be like, oh, you know, let me spend this time as much as possible with that person, which I feel like we fell into a lot. But I really appreciate seeing some of our friends who are going through long distance come and, you know, have like evenings booked out with different people and different dinners. You know, either it's an older couple, a younger couple, their age couple, like all the different community. And I really appreciate that. I feel like that's something that we didn't have as our priority. Like, it would come up because people would be like, oh, you know, she's here, let's go somewhere. But I feel like if other people didn't initiate, we probably might have had way less of that.
Yes.
But I think it's so precious because, again, you can always talk with each other online. Like, again, in the Christian dating relationship, like, there isn't really, I mean, of course there is a lot you can do. Like, you can, I don't know, enjoy some hikes, enjoy some, I don't know, going to a mall, whatever you prefer and doing. Of course, those things are special being in person, but I think that it's really important to think and prioritize having friendships. Yeah. And I think also about that, I was thinking how when you have people that you build relationships with as a couple, it's really good for, as well, you know, anything that you need help with in your relationship, like any mentorship or so, advice, because I think if you have just the people who are, you know you only, you know, like know only the guy or only the girl. Sometimes if you have issues and you want to go to someone for advice, let's say you want to go together as a couple, like that person may take your side more.
Yeah.
Not even
There's too much bias there.
Yeah.
So it needs to be someone who is at least at a neutral relationship level with the both of you.
Yeah.
So that you have a better advice or mentorship, just depending on what you're going to that person or a couple, hopefully an older couple that pours into you and gives you truth, unfiltered truth, so that you could, us as young people, we could learn from.
Yeah, just the people who would be rooting for your relationship. You know, Lord willing, your relationship is healthy and good, and you know they're not. It's of course taking away all the extremes of someone making you, I don't know, think that it's a good relationship if it's not. But just you know, if you build good friendships, good Christian mentorship with people, it would be really helpful in your relationship. Yeah.
Agreed. I think one of the best things as well is doing a Bible reading plan together. Or at the time when we weren't doing a Bible reading plan, we were doing sermon series together and taking notes.
That was
and then sharing. Like some of the ones that we'll share with you guys. At the time I still think it's a pretty good resource. Ben Stewart's Single, Dating, Engaged, Married series was really good. And even I think Jonathan Pokluda's too. But I what I would recommend now, it would be Vadi Bokum's Family Worship or Paul Washer's Courtship series for men, because for men, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, as it says in the Proverbs. Men has to lead the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely helpful along the same line, just finding something that you would have as a constant topic to go to, because sometimes, again, you just come home, it's just another day, and you know, you get on a video chat and you're like, how was your day? And it just feels like you don't have something to talk about, maybe perhaps because either just nothing happened, or you know, your lives are just so different that you're in different places that you just feel a little disconnected, like having something that maybe both of you, like about sermons or that you mentioned, having like a sermon that you know you were listening actively through that day, or I don't know, week, depending on how fast-paced you want to take it. And just knowing that, oh, you know, we're gonna call tonight and we're gonna be able to discuss something that we both put effort in, that we like took time out of our day to do. I feel like it's really special to know that that person, you know, even though they were living like a different life kind of from you in a different place, that they were still doing the same thing that you were doing and putting effort into, you know, your call later.
Yeah, because again, there's that trap of, I think this is definitely some things that we felt, where we would call, we would ask about each other's day, and sometimes we would ramble on how each other's day was, and then by the time it hits around like 10 p.m., at least for one person, it's a lot later than the other.
Yeah, time differences.
And then someone gets tired, and then you pray, then you close the night, and you only had maybe 2 or 3 hours of call, and most of the call was, how was your day? And that just really doesn't move the needle forward in the relationship. It doesn't really connect. You're just spitting out just a daily action report to your, you know, your loved one, which is not connecting at all. Not on a mental level or spiritual level, a heart level. So it's important to grow, and sermon series is definitely one of the ways to grow.
Yeah. And it can be also anything, just I feel like that intentionality throughout the day really boosts the time. I mean, at least we would call in the evening. It may be different if you are in different places or time zones, but for us, I noticed that sometimes just, you know, during the day you would see some things or hear some information or, I don't know, get into some situation that would be funny or disturbing or, I don't know, just interesting to discuss, and just writing that down, like sometimes just going to your like notes on your phone and just writing that down, I think is so nice, because you know, when you get in the evening, as you said, like you get tired and like you just forget everything that happened that was really a fun part of your day, or just an interesting part, that I feel like writing it down and then later being able to look back and like, okay, what else happened? Like, oh, you know, I saw this quote and I thought that it was so good, like let me bring this up to you. I think that's, again, I always felt so not appreciated, but I always felt so cherished when you took your time during your day to like, you thought of me and you like saved a video for me or something like that. Like, because we would even sometimes not send those things during the day, especially if we know that it's busy days, so we wouldn't have time to look at that, but we would just save it for the evening. So I guess that can be part of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely texting throughout the day. Highly recommend that.
Like little updates. We'd be like, oh, I'm going to the store, or I don't know, I met this friend. It would be helpful to feel like you're bringing me into your day.
I think also one topic when it comes to texting throughout the day, at least what I did, don't be afraid to search something up on Google, questions to ask your loved one. Because remember when I would ask like random questions like,
it was when
what's your favorite dinosaur?
It was when we were just getting to know each other, like in the friendship zone. It was so funny. Yeah, you would, but that's, again, you were so intentional, but you would just find those random questions and like, by the way, the question of the day.
Yeah,
you know,
question of the days.
Yeah, favorite ice cream or something like that. But
yes.
Yeah. Again, the little things. It's the little things that can keep you more connected throughout the day.
Yes. I think that's definitely very important.
Yeah, and I see the difference between being in the long distance, like dating, to being in person. Is like we could go with one or two texts through your whole workday, and then you come home. And that would be fine, because I feel like we have so much more time together in the evening, just doing the regular evening stuff, eating dinner, rather than having it all tied down to like a 2-hour call. Because in reality, we would sometimes call for like 4 hours, but that wouldn't be a daily thing. Yeah,
it wouldn't be, even if it was a 4-hour call, it's not enough compared to like an in-person. One benefit of long distance though, especially if you are in the dating stage, is that it forces you to talk. It forces you to communicate. I know that at least for worldly people, those who are not Christians, they use that time of being in person to do stuff that is,
worldly.
worldly. I'm not going to name names, but I've had a friend who had dated his a friend coworker who not Christian, but who had dated his girlfriend for about 7-8 years, and I asked him, "What are you waiting for? Are you going to marry her or not?" And his response was, "Well, I don't know. I still got to get to know her. I'm over here 6 months to a year dating era, and I already knew after 3 months of talking to her in the friendship stage that this is the woman I'm going to marry, because through just very intentional conversations." But you see a lot of people don't have those intentional conversations because the physicality is usually muddying up or
it's distracting.
It's distracting compared to what a relationship is supposed to be. And
I would say as well, that brings up for me a point that, okay, long distance should not be like a long-term thing.
Yes.
Like, again, it should be a season that you get into, because the circumstances of how you met or how your life had to be. But it's definitely something that you're like, okay, when is the end time for this? Because it's a hard season, and I feel like in any hard season, you like having a timeline that like, okay, you know, we've got a year of this, and then I'm moving here, we're getting married, and we're going to be together. And it gets easier to work through that, especially in the hard moments, rather than being like, oh, you know, we're dating and how long is it going to go? And yeah, we definitely saw some people that, you know, it didn't work out because I don't think it ever had a purpose. But that again goes back to like, you know, even in person dating, it's like you gotta always have a purpose. You know, dating should lead to marriage. It shouldn't just be, oh, you know, I'm just comfortable with this person or so. Yeah. But another thing that, while we are still on the topic of long distance in dating, I wanted to bring up and ask you is, do you think that it's for everyone? Because I feel like sometimes in the modern age, it's really common, but do you think it's like something to take lightly, or everybody can do it?
I think long distance dating is not for everyone. For us, it was, because at the time that just was our situation, and our beliefs, it just didn't stem from whether the person was close enough or not. If the person is the right person, then we were going to spend intentional time with them. Now, there are some other people who cannot do long distance relationships because they just don't want to be apart from that person, or try to at least build the beginning stages of that person apart. And I have a friend, it happened to him, and we have a friend that it happened to them. And it turned out great, you know. It turned out great that he found a person who was in person rather than a person who is far away, and their relationship grew, rather than if he were to have went with a person who was far apart. I think long distance dating is a new phenomena, actually, just due to the advent of the phones.
You're able to meet people who are, or you're at a higher possibility of meeting people who are not in your surrounding. Because, I mean, even our parents had to go through like either long distance dating or marriage, but I feel like the chance of that nowadays is really high. But yeah, I agree. It's like, it's not like, oh, you know, this person can do it, this person is not capable of doing it. Like, no, I think it's more so in a way, like, I just don't want it to sound that like, oh, you know, we were just so good, we did it. No, I was struggling. I am the last person to like say that I'm good in any long distance situation between the two of us. But I feel like it's okay if you feel like that's not for you. Because I think, again, as you said, it's been so popularized that it may make people think that like, oh, you know, I should be able to do this. You know, I have this girl that I met, or this guy that I met, and, you know, they are nice and godly, and, you know, we can try to make it work. But like, you really deep down feel like, you know, I just don't feel like doing this. Yeah. And I think that that's okay. Again, we saw it work in a good way. That like, you know, you just accept that, you know what, you're a great person, but I'm just not made to do this. Like, it's just not comfortable for me. It's a lot of effort. Maybe perhaps, you know, down the line, you're looking farther down the line and you just don't see how you can be in person. You know, either it's because of, I don't know, document issues between different countries, or it's because of family dynamics, that maybe that person just wants to live near their family for the rest of their life. And, you know, for you to move to that place also doesn't work. So I think it's okay to think through it, through the intricate details of long distance dating, and be like, okay, am I up for this? Or should I just try to avoid this? Yeah,
the right person in the wrong time in the wrong place is still the wrong person, sadly. But I do believe that there are benefits to, again, one benefits to long distance dating is communication, but another benefits to long distance dating is, let's say, for example, your church, you're in a church that maybe is more of an older congregation, or maybe you just moved to a place and you're not plugged into a church, or there's not a lot of people around your age in that church. then I think it's good to be able to seek out online, especially when there's a lot of false Christians or there's a lot of worldly people out there, and that's not where you want to date, because it says in, Corinthians, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. So for our case, at the time I was not fully plugged into a church, and we went through Heart of Dating. Please check out our love story from
for
that
details.
for details. But I went to Heart of Dating. I reached out to her through Instagram, and nowadays, if you are overseas, you're able to do that as well. Let's say if you're not plugged into an English-speaking church, or maybe you are plugged into an English-speaking church, and there happens to be no prospects for a wife or for a husband in there, then don't be afraid to use, the social media. Another benefit is being able to meet up with someone who is of a different culture than you. Maybe what if you don't like your culture that you're in, or maybe you're curious about someone else's culture. Now you have cross-cultural relationships, which I think is beautiful, because you get to see the beauties of different sides, and just, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we also have that on our mind as another topic to discuss. Is not today, but in a different episode of its own, but it's just dating across cultures, or just marriage across cultures. Because I would say that's another thing that, like, you really got to think, like, what cultures may be harder for me to, I don't know, adapt into, which again, you usually don't really like plan on, like, I'm gonna date someone from this culture, but there are some things that are good to think through as well when you're considering, like, am I gonna be able to date someone from a different culture? Do I just really want to have everything in common with this person, as for like how we grew up, what snacks we ate at school lunch, and all of that, it's also very different for people.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's long distance dating.
Yeah.
What about long distance marriage? What were some key takeaways of long distance marriage? We just came out of a long distance time because she had to be in the States for her green card and such. But what are some things that you had in your thoughts during the time that we were long distance?
Yeah, so we were long distance for 2 months, but felt like forever.
Yes.
Again, I'm not the person who handles long distance well. And that's why I think it was so helpful when we were doing it. Like, the longest we would do, even in dating, was 1 month.
Yeah.
Which I think was really bearable, because especially if you have a lot going on in your lives, both. It's kind of like keeps you distracted. But here it was a very different circumstance. I was going somewhere for an undetermined amount of time.
Yes.
And also I didn't have much going on. So like, I didn't have my university anymore that I was busy with constantly. And I was really struggling because the time just felt like it was going slow. And it ended up being, I think I said 2 months. But how different? I think it's harder in the fact that once you're married, you probably already lived some time together, at least. That long distance can come at any time, but probably you already lived some time together. And you already built your life in that one place. And if you're going either back to a place where you used to be, or you're going to like a new place, or just whatever is the case, I feel like it's harder because, when you're just dating, it's like you already have an established life somewhere. And it's easier to just continue with that life that is normal for you, rather than being like plucked out of your normal life and thrown into something unusual. Either it's you being plucked out of your life here and thrown into like a TDY or deployment or so, or me being just brought somewhere else for documents. It's like you're going somewhere where like you don't have anything much to do. You don't have people that you know, or at least like a
Yeah.
good big community that you know, that you're a part of and have some regular, I don't know, activities with. So yeah, that would say that would be like a harder thing
Yeah.
in marriage.
I think it was definitely a lot harder this time around because of the undetermined
That's true.
date. I think there was a time when you were going to your university in Kiev, and we had a determined date.
Yeah.
That, as long as I knew, okay, this is the day that she is going to return home. It was kind of good for me. It was kind of nice for me. Now, of course, knowing that there are rockets flying overhead, and you having to constantly go to the bunker, that was, that gave me a lot of worry.
Yeah.
But I still had a lot of hope that, okay, you're leaving on this date. But when, we had that 2-month time span in a place where you were in a very healthy place,
Yes.
and you were in first trimester, but there was just
in
a
a
lot.
healthy place, meaning like I was in a good home with good people.
Yeah,
Like I was not alone.
I was thinking
By
just
no
there was
means.
no
Oh, you mean, like,
there were no
safe place?
yeah, like there were no rockets. But because there was no determined date, it was just a lot of unknowns. And I know for me at the time, usually when you go away, you're the busy one.
Yeah.
But this time, when she went away, I was the busy one at home.
Yeah.
And I was juggling a lot of the things. I was juggling school, Airman Leadership School, and my dog. And I think there was an exercise at the time, but I was in ALS. And I was just super busy, and I would burn myself out every single day. I would sleep around 12:30. I would wake up around 6:30. Just groggy, not wanting to go to work whatsoever, and just like, and it was just emotionally hard for you too, because you were not busy. You don't know what to do.
I was far from busy. I was bored.
Yes.
I mean, I was just being in the first trimester and early second trimester. I was like more tired. Like I don't think I would be able to do that much either. Like it was a weird place where like I am bored because I don't have, as you said, like now I'm alone. Like I don't have my regular tasks in the home that I would be having. We, our events and things we go to weekly. So I wouldn't have that. That was taken away, but I also didn't have it replaced with anything else, like like I used to, like my university or something like that. And even though I wasn't physically capable of doing much, it still was hard just not having much to do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think was like a helpful thing for you?
Keeping busy.
You like
for
being
me,
busy?
I know a lot of people, whenever there was a lot of busyness, the best thing for them is just someone to reach out. I have a buddy of mine, the best thing whenever he's busy is someone to reach out to him. For me, people...
Not busy, but maybe going through something
Yeah,
hard.
exactly. But for me, I would like keeping my hands busy. I really do believe... I don't think it's in the Bible. I think I mistook it as if it was in the Bible, but I don't think it is. It's like idle hands are the devil's playground. It's just an old phrase, old saying.
Yeah,
But idle hands are the devil's playground. So I didn't want to be idle. I wanted to keep on doing projects, keep on exhausting myself in order to not get tempted in any way. Whether it's the projects at the time, it was school, it was Airman Leadership School, Talia,
our dog.
our dog, Talia is our dog, and also like stuff with the church plant as well. So yeah, I think for a type A personality, just like me, I think it'd be best to stay busy. But I think in general, an important thing is to text constantly throughout the day, text updates even when you're in totally different time zones while the other person's
That was our
sleeping.
case,
Yeah, because it was just nice to wake up in the morning and see, how your day was while I was
Yeah.
asleep, and it was just sweet getting to know that you thought of me. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that, again, trying as much as possible to have community around you. And this can go both for dating and married, but I feel like, again, in dating, most likely you do have community that you built in that place where you're at. But in marriage, like if you're going somewhere where you're not used to and you're without your spouse and you have to go through the long distance, just trying to get plugged into a good Christian community, because you're gonna perhaps, I mean, again, everybody handles it differently depending on how long it is, but especially in the military community, I see a lot of like spouses or spouses with kids, like it gets really hard, and you do really need people to be there who are just gonna be able to listen to you and help out in the things that you may need help in, like either it's in the home or just in emotional support. Yeah, I think that's really important, is like trying to get that community. And I think another thing that was different this time around while doing long distance while we were married was that I think that we had more grace for each other, because when you're dating, you're still getting to know the person, you're still building trust. And I remember I was a little hard on you many times, and you were really patient with me. When we were dating, like I would, get either like jealous of some situation of like, oh, like you, like what was this thing or this thing? Like I would just like get really picky about situations, and you like not, I don't know, like not doing something like little would like throw me off and be like, oh, he didn't think about me, or he doesn't care for me, or something. Like it was definitely my fault, but I noticed that my mind was way more at peace because we were married, and I already had that built up trust that if there was one thing that's like, oh, I wish you texted me this update, but you texted it in like a group chat or something like that, instead of texting me, and I'm like, oh, he didn't think about texting me first, or something like that. Even though it's such a little thing, but like just the first thing that came to my mind, I wouldn't get like as much thinking about it. I would be like, oh, whatever, put it away. So yeah, I feel like I was able to have way more grace just because we had that closeness already and that time built together.
Yeah, I think from the guy's perspective, it gets easier to lead as you go through. I think definitely while we were dating, I feel like I was more passive, just trying to see, okay, does she like this or does she not like this? And I was passive in the way of leading the relationship. But now that we're married, like I think it's a lot easier to lead long distance wise. That way I was able to help calm down any of the emotional nerves that you did have on the phone call, as to compared back then when we were dating. All I did was just sit and listen, maybe not know what to do. But I wasn't. I was taking more of an active role of leading, rather than I was very passive back then. Just from a man perspective of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it doesn't, this season of doing long distance, it doesn't have like an easy way out. An easy way out is just to be able to move, I guess, and be in the same place. But I feel like definitely reminding yourself that it's a season, and leaning into God's strengths. That's a lot that I had to do when I was struggling while I was in the States. Just trusting God. And I think it is a beautiful season to grow in your faith, because I think I didn't have you for a lot of my emotional support throughout the day. And I definitely found that I was leaning into God more. And I think it's beautiful when those, sufferings. I mean, again, I don't want to it felt like that to me in that season, in our particular case and situation. It did feel like a season of suffering. I was reading Job through it. So, but yeah, it's definitely, you notice that, like in those times when we are weak, we see how God's strength comes through, because we in our regular day life we may be just feeling everything is normal, everything is good, and we don't ask God for help. But in those seasons when you really need His strength, I think it's so beautiful how close you can get to God as well, and just lean on Him. So lean on God, lean on your community, be patient with each other, and get yourself busy sometimes. It truly can help whenever you're trying to just pass by that time while you're apart. I feel like that's how I would summarize the main points that would be on my mind.
Yes, I agree. Well, that was the episode. Thank you guys for watching Climb Along Podcast. Tune in next week, Monday, for another episode. Ciao, guys.
Bye.